All right, we are back and better than ever. A dozen episodes now of the Harold Katz podcast. Glad you could join us. Oren Glickman, Akiva Poppers, pulling the strings behind the scenes, and of course, Coach Katz. Can't do an episode of the Harold Katz podcast without Coach himself. Coach, a dozen episodes. Can you believe we're finally at this moment?
Well, I mean, it's 12 of what we hope to be very many. So, is there such a thing as very many?
It's been a long day, so I'll cut you some slack there.
So I'm saying hopefully there's a lot more to come, but I think we're catching our footing and gone through the high school season, and now it's off-season stuff. So I think it's a good time to kind of build some inventory.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely a quiet time for the high school college player. But I think it's a good opportunity for us to address those matters. You know, right now, like it's downtime for a player. And I think players are entitled to have some time off to themselves. And I know that you always tell players, you know, you got to hit the gym, you got to work out as much as possible, get to the gym. But there is downtime involved. So how do you keep going at it, especially when you don't have access to competitive games on a regular basis that you do during the high school college basketball season?
It's kind of a good question. It's not kind of, it actually is a good question. And I think there's a multiple layered answer on it. Like, I think you have to get away from basketball for a while. When your season's over, take a week, take 2 weeks, just kind of get away. It's seasons are long. Ours this year happened to go very long. So when you have long seasons, you kind of need to decompress a little bit, get away from the game, rethink, plan out. You know, I personally don't think you should be messing with basketball on television. I don't think you should be watching film. Like, just get away week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Just get away from basketball. Some guys take a month. I think that's a little too long because I don't think you stay sharp for that long. I think you can get away with it for like a week, 10 days, maybe a little more. Not going to be totally sharp, but you'll come back in pretty good. Might not be in game shape, but you'll come back in if you shoot the ball, you'll come back shooting the ball pretty well. You know, it's okay. Once you get past that 2-3 weeks, I think after 2 weeks you start getting antsy. And once you get antsy, like, get in the gym. And then I personally think, I've said this before, it's what you do when the lights are off, which is going to determine what happens in your game when the lights are on. And the lights are off time from, I mean, you know, for some high school kids, they'll go play AAU. I'm not an AAU guy just because I get that's what everybody's doing, but work on your game. If you're going to tournaments every single weekend, you know, and you're playing during the week and you're not working on your game. See, I think, and I'd love to hear other opinions on it, but I think like there's some guys, you know, in high school and college. Well, let's just talk about college for a second. There's some guys in college, when they come back, you know, they have not done a lick of work. None. Because they look like the exact same train wreck they were before the season finished. And they come back and they haven't improved on their weaknesses and their strengths became stagnant. So you know right away. And my response to those guys is, if you didn't give us the time when you were away, what makes you think we're going to give you the time when you're here?
Right.
And you're going to have to work extra hard for me. If I know you're not busting in the off season, but now's the time to get in the weight room, get in the gym. You know, your seasons are basically been over for a month. You know, if you're not Connecticut or whoever, but like, get in the gym, get in the weight room. You know, pick up basketball to me is a waste of time for a college or a college play. Well, it's not. I don't want to make it sound like that. It's not a waste of time if you get in the right run. But if you're going to play with your high school buddies and you're a college player, you're wasting your time. it's nice maybe do that once a month, twice a month, have fun, playing some rec league or something if you can stay healthy. The bulk of your summer should be in the gym doing the work.
Yeah.
Getting better. If you have no left hand, get a left hand. You have no right hand, get a right hand. Can't play to your right shoulder, learn in the post, learn to play to your right shoulder. But I mean, that's really where the work needs to be done. And I think there's a regimen. You have to have a goal. I always had guys, we're going to make 400 shots before we leave the gym. The old Kobe Bryant thing. But that means like as soon as you walk in the gym, layups, whatever you're shooting, we're going to get 400 makes before you even think about leaving the gym. And if you could do that, and I would limit it. You got to do it within an hour and 15 or an hour and 20. It means you have to work.
Yeah. I know a lot of people use those shooting machines. Do you recommend those? Do you think they're very helpful to a player?
I mean, the machines are good simply because you get shots up. But my issue, particularly with I don't want to talk. I mean, I love the gun. It's a great, and I also like Dr. Dish. Like I like them both. My only thing about the gun was you always had to shoot over the nets. Like I don't even know what it gets up to. Maybe Coach Davenport will know. Maybe it's 15 feet high. So you're kind of pulling that in. So if you don't have a natural arc, it kind of teaches you to get one, so to speak. I like the shooting machines because you can get them to do certain things. I was just talking about to somebody yesterday. If you wanted to go, say, 10 shots in 8 different spots around the perimeter, you could do that in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10-second intervals, however long you want. I prefer like 3, so you really have to work hard. And then that's 80 shots. You'll probably get that done. I don't know, 80 shots, probably 6, 7 minutes if you're good. I might be a little off on that, but you can take 10 minutes, get off 80, 100 shots. You're working at a good clip. Yeah. So that's kind of where I would go. My math is probably messed up with that. I like in high school. I'm probably I'm be okay with that number. Yeah. 80 shots. You can do that like that. So I like that part of the gun. It can also change the trajectory of the pass, and it rebounds for you a little bit. So I like the gun. I like them both. I like Dr. Dish. I like the gun. Those are good.
So you've talked so far about what the player mindset should be during this time period, but I'd also like to get your perspective on what the coach mentality should be. I think coaches, and correct me if I'm wrong, coaches have somewhat of a responsibility to keep in touch with their players regularly to make sure that they're staying in shape and all that. But at the same time, it sounds to me like you need to walk a tightrope because it is their time off. So how do you find that balance?
Well, I think if you're in college and you're on campus and your kids are still there, like if you're in Division I program, you have spring workouts too. Like Division III is a little different, but you have time where you're allowed to work with your kids one-on-one, or they might have changed that rule to where you can work in groups of 3. I forgot. They mess with them so much, and so understand this, Oren. When you play college basketball, that's a job. It's a job, and that's why a lot of guys like hiring guys who play college basketball, because when they're in college, they got through a work process. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're working. It's a job. So, yeah, you're right. There is a type of, hey, guys, me, I just want to quit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. And every 2 minutes, in the off season, I'm done. But I think for coaches, let's put, when you're dealing in college, there's a part of you that wants them to be mature and do their work. You know what I mean?
Right. You want them to take the initiative themselves.
Of course. And then there's another party that says, boy, these guys are knuckleheads. I got to stay on them. But that is, of course, why you have assistants. Let the assistants worry about it. A lot of coaches have basketball camps where they start preparing basically middle of this month, probably. And for some of the coaches, the basketball camps are bonuses for their assistants, and so the assistants kind of run them and make money off of that. And at the really big time coaches, 6-figure income for some of these guys split up. So it used to be a huge business. AAU kind of took some of that away. But I think for coaches, they also got to walk away. Like I didn't look at basketball
for the whole holiday Passover.
For sure, but maybe 2 days after I got home, I want to see a couple things that I was looking for. And once I watched that, in particular on our Thursday night game, and once I watched that, I was done. I just shut off. I haven't watched any other game because I have no interest in doing that right now.
Right.
I need to get a way to clear my head. But obviously, especially when you have returning players, it's all film study all the time. And when you're in college, like I guarantee college guys are recruiting now too. But when you're in college, you're watching film. When you finally get back in, even in the summer, some guys begrudgingly do it. Some guys don't do it. Some guys have assistants do it. But at some point, you don't have to watch film for a few months. You're feeling pretty good because college basketball is either your own film or somebody else's film. So I mean, you want to stay on your guys, but you also tell your guys, it's time to strap up and be an adult.
Right.
And you have responsibility, you and your teammates, and let's go in there and get some work done. Get your work done and go home. Like, go lift, go shoot, whatever you got to do, and then go. Like, just go do something else. It's got to be about, I got to get my work done. Playing pickup to me, unless it's a high level pickup game, you're wasting your time.
So what do you think the typical agenda should look like, and how many hours a day do you recommend?
Well, it's not necessarily the hours a day, because a lot of guys can shoot for 5 hours and not do any work. There's some days like you're gonna. I'll give you. Let's say you got. Let's go Sunday through Friday. Sunday you go hard. Monday you go hard. Probably. If you can see 400 or 500 shots going in a bucket, that'd be great. But Sunday you're gonna go hard. Monday you're gonna go hard. You're gonna lift both those days. Alternate between your legs and your upper body and your arms. That's how we call it. And then you might need Wednesday as a maintenance day, where you're still lifting, but you're doing maintenance on your shot or whatever you're working on. And then Thursday, Friday, get back at it. Or I like some guys just go hard 5 days and then take the weekend off. I'd like that too. It can be, especially early in the summer when you first start doing it, it can be draining both mentally and physically. I think you can get a really good workout. I mean, I think if you're 90 minutes and you worked hard for 90 minutes, you had a great workout. Like I said, you could be the 300, 3 hours and shoot hundreds of shots off a gun and never go hard. It's a maintenance day kind of, but if you do that every day, you're not setting yourself up with your fatigue stamina, with your stamina, with your resistance on fatigue. You're not setting yourself up for playing tired. You're not setting yourself shooting free throws tired. You got to challenge yourself in some. I like to use drills, especially for college kids. I like to use drills that are really difficult. and you find out how good you really are. But a kid who doesn't get in the gym, I tend not to think about him twice in the regular season.
Yeah.
That's me. That's me. Because everybody else is busting their ass and you're sitting home. Yeah, I'm not going to do it today. I'm not working.
Right.
No, I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of respect for that player either.
Yeah.
A player like that, I don't care much for you.
Yeah.
Because you're a fraud. You know what I mean? You're a fraud. You're a big mouth in the locker room talking all that nonsense. And then you get out in the summertime and you do nothing. Don't waste my time.
No, I think we've seen a lot of players in the last couple of years, especially, me coming from the Yeshiva League landscape, a lot of players who rely on their athleticism alone, that they feel like they don't need to elevate their game all that much. And that's why their teams come up short the following year in the Yeshiva League. Yeah,
they'd rather just, shoot around with their boys, play pickup and all that, instead of getting in the gym and getting to work. And I don't mean, look, if you go to basketball camp, that's great. But if you go to a basketball camp and you're not working on your weakness at the basketball camp, okay, here's a perfect example. You go to basketball camp, okay? You pay a lot of money to go to some of these camps. And you can't play in your left hand. And you win camper of the year or camper of the week that week, and you come home and your left hand still sucks, you've wasted thousands of dollars. And you're not, that's just stroking the ego. Like, you should look brutal in the summertime. You know what I mean? You should look like crap because you're working on all the stuff you can't do very well. You understand? If you look great in the summer and you haven't improved on your weaknesses, it's nothing for coaches to get excited about. So before you think long and hard before you go to some of these camps, and they don't tell you and they don't make you work on your weaknesses, you better think long and hard on that.
So camp might not be the answer for every player out there.
I don't want to make any enemies, but I think camp's not a lot of answer for a lot of players.
Uh-huh.
Camp's the answer for a camp director, because
right.
He's making. But it ain't an answer for a lot of kids who aren't going to go work on their game. They're just going to go play summer camp, get some pickup. They're going to say they're working on their game. But if you come home and you are still bad at that, you have wasted thousands of dollars or whatever it is on summer camp. The whole point of camp is to, obviously you're supposed to have fun. And sometimes it's not fun to kind of dribble with your left hand when you can't do it and guys are stripping you naked, right? But the bottom line is sort of what you should be doing. And to me, it's always, it's time to get embarrassed a little bit. Get summer camp and get embarrassed because you're working on your game. Get in the gym and get embarrassed because you're working on your game.
Yeah, I guess also a key discrepancy is, when you're in a summer camp, you're not your primary needs are not really being addressed because you're in a group. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're alone,
you can have
totally focused on you.
Yeah, you can have breakout with that's true. But even in camp, you can have a breakout with the coach, and put in extra time early in the morning. Or there's some kids that in this neighborhood, so to speak, that improved their stock because they did that. They got up early in the morning and they went to the gym and worked hard, and during camp, and then did the whole camp function, and then they would still be in a breakout alone in the gym. So those kids are different, and they usually get success with that.
Yeah. This is probably a good opportunity to plug in the fact that Coach is not running a basketball camp this summer.
Fact. Coach is too old to run a basketball camp. Too old, too lazy, too fat. I don't. They've approached me a lot, especially the last 6 weeks. But at least at this point, I don't have any interest in doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, don't make me do it.
All right, got to find other summer job alternatives. So in about 10 minutes, we're going to have Coach Davenport of D1 Bellarmine. And I'm very excited about this. Obviously, I want you to hold your cards close to your vest. But what do you think our viewers could be expecting to hear from Coach Davenport when he comes on with us?
I mean, he's darn near one of the best coaches in America. So, and he has been for decades. High school, college, some guys just know how to do it. You know what I mean? And coaches like that and smart. I'm not, you're right. I'm not going to tip my hand. I'll let coach do all the work on that. But
right.
If you're interested in really understanding how to play, listen to this guy. Coach Davenport's kids know how to play. I mean, just, you know, kids, they don't really pay attention to coaches. Pay attention to this guy because Coach Davenport knows what he's talking about, and he's brilliant basketball mind. I can't wait to pick it.
Yeah,
and steal from him. I have no qualms about that. I will steal whatever I could steal.
Yeah. Before he comes on, we're starting to get questions in the chat, and this is probably a good time to remind our viewers to please subscribe to the Harold Katz podcast. And we also want to give a recognition to Yeshiva League Pass. Question from the chat for you, Coach. Have you ever cut a kid that played for you the previous year?
I ever cut a kid that played for me the previous year? I wonder if that guy's actually texting you.
That guy is asking the question. It's a kid who you cut the previous year.
Have I ever done that? I try not to. Sometimes I encourage kids, you know, you may not want to come back, but I've never done that. Have I done that? Yeah, I might have done that. But I just didn't want the kid back. So, you know, you know, every circumstance is different. But there's some kids, kids got to be worth it. Like sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze, and you got to cut bait. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's great. I was once in the Coach Fang Mitchell used to coach here at Coppin State, and was in Minnesota, and I went to pick him up at the airport. And he had told me, and they were allowed to practice, you know, up through the Final Four. And he had told me I got rid of all 14 scholarship guys. Like, I kept one guy, and I told the other 14 their scholarships are not renewed. And I'm like, the first thing he said to me, I got in the car, and I'm like, dude, Fang, like, because they're 1 year renewables. They're not automatically renewed. See, in high school, you don't really get that. You know, the kids on your team in 10th grade, you know, you're taking them in 11th grade. Maybe. But if a kid was a jerk in 10th grade, why in the world am I investing in this in 11th grade? So I've had that circumstance before. Most times I try to work it out with the kid and don't do that, but I have done it once.
Wow, only one time. You coach a lot of seasons.
I'm trying to think if there's any more. There could be more. I'm coaching a long time already. Yeah. So there could be more. In college, we definitely did it, where we just told the kid, don't come back. You're just not.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting question because I think some schools actually have the policy that if a player was on a team 1 year, he automatically gets reinvited the following year. Do you think there will ever be a case where like the coach would have a disagreement with the school and it's a back and forth case where they'd have to work out the issue?
Sure. Here's kind of how that disagreement will work with me. You understand? I mean, I'll tell you how I'll play that. If I don't want the kid back and the school's making me take him back, old youngin's going to be sitting on a bench for a whole season.
Right.
And he's not going to get any reps in practice. I took him back on the team. Well, you didn't play. Well, you didn't tell me how to play him. I'm not planning on playing him because I didn't plan on getting him here. You made me take him back. He's going to spend his entire year watching everybody else get reps and watching everybody else play. And if he still wants to be part of that, no problem. As long as he's not killing my locker room, once he kills my locker room, it's time to go. Because the hardest thing to be deal with in basketball is your locker room. I mean, parents, if your locker room's a mess, you're in trouble, regardless of parents and all that other stuff.
Yeah. I think Sarachek is a good example. I mean, obviously, the only locker room I was allowed into was the YMC locker room, me and Pop. But
what were we thinking?
But I don't think we needed to. For example, we've had Lior on the last two shows. I don't think we needed to get into the locker room to see.
Well, I mean, you could tell when they play. You know? I mean, you tell when they play, but there's always some issues simmering underneath sometimes, and you try to nip them in the bud, and at some point, some kids just shouldn't be back, and I'm not proud of it, but I mean, I am proud of it because he didn't deserve to be back. Don't kill my.
I think, I mean, I think when it comes to a player like that, I think the single most important issue is, does his presence or his non-presence affect the rest of the players on the team?
That's right. I mean, that 100%.
I've seen a lot of programs. I'm speaking Yeshiva League again because that's my hometown league, where you've had players of talent and they've been toxic to the team as a whole.
Yeah. So that's kind of my point. Guy's not worth the squeeze, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just got to do it. And if the school don't like it, then fire me. You know what I mean? Like you got to do the right thing, and enabling negative people around your basketball team is not necessarily the right thing.
Yeah, Coach, I think he's here. We're ready to go.
Here we go. I'm ready to go.
All right, here we go.
I'm ready to go.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
Here we go.
All right. You're still tuning in. Oren Glickman alongside Coach Katz. We have Coach Scott Davenport of the Bellarmine Knights. Coach Davenport, can you hear me?
I'm in. There you go.
Coach Davenport, thank you so much for joining the Harold Katz podcast and taking the time.
Coach Katz, thank you.
My pleasure, Coach. You got to be kidding me having you on here. This is like a dream come true for me. We are, well, I don't know about you, but I'm a dinosaur, and meeting guys who go, it's a thrill to have you here. I'm just really excited. I'm a huge fan of what you do. Even from Ballard, which you can go back and talk about that in a sec, but like even back then. And so I told you I'm old. So
well, I think you just called me a dinosaur.
Well, I called myself a dinosaur. I accidentally threw you in there, but you have the difference between me and you is you have the energy of a 19-year-old.
Well, it's an honor. We've had a great day. We had a recruit, his dad and his grandfather here today. We started quite early today. We've had a great day, believe me.
Well, hopefully this is the best part of your day.
Yeah, we're going to talk some basketball. This is an honor. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. What I try to do here, unlike some other podcasts, it's kind of like a coaching thing for me. I'm a big fan of great coaching. That's obviously why you're here, first of all. So thanks again. And second, to really get in the weeds, if you're willing to do it, as to what we got, how do we get there, you understand? And we'll go piece by piece. And I couldn't imagine this young audience, and there are other coaches, I'm sure, listening to this. There's so much to learn from you. It's almost like we won't have enough time.
Well, Coach, I want everybody to keep in mind at all times that, in my opinion, I am absolutely the luckiest coach. Men, women, from NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, college, Power 5, high school, varsity, JV, freshman, middle school. I'm the luckiest that's ever coached. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd love every minute of it. My mother said right before she passed away 13 years ago that if I worked really, really hard, I might get a real job, make something out of myself.
And you said, no, Ma, I liked what I'm doing.
Well, I've never had a job.
Yeah.
Think about it. A job is by definition, a job is a vocation.
Right.
And I've had an advocation. And what I've been an advocate of are those incredible young men I've coached. So I've never had a job. I've had an advocation.
I hear that. That's excellent. That's excellent. Okay. I'm just thinking about all the things I'm about to steal from you, and that would be one of them. So I'm gonna steal that. Coach, to help the crowd here, again, I wanted to, Oren Glickman's kind of helps me with the show, and Akiva Poppers produces it for us. So they've done a terrific job of getting this thing off the ground, and I just want to acknowledge them before, because we're going to ignore them for the next however long it is.
It's tough. Wow.
I have my blessing, Coach.
You just got benched. You just got benched.
It's not easy here, Coach. But they know. They've learned. We're going to take the wood to them, and that's just how it works. They never got to be ball players, so we treat them in here like it's their own little basketball team. And you know what comes along with that. Some good, some bad, some deal with it, right? So,
yes, sir.
Let's start. Where'd you play? When did you start playing? Where'd you play in high school? And where'd you play? Did you play in college?
Well, we'll go back to junior high school. And I went to junior high, not middle school. So it was 7, 8, 9. And I made the 9th grade basketball team as an 8th grader.
That's great.
There was only 2 of us. Now that's big time. You make the 9th grade team as an 8th grader in a very large junior high school. That's big time. Well, our coach, his name was Vernon Wold, an unbelievable coach, teacher, wanted the best for us. And you had to wear a tie on the day of the game.
Yeah.
Because he wanted everybody to be special. So on a day of a game, you wore a tie. Well, I had 2 ties. My mom and my father were from Greene County, Kentucky, which is rural Kentucky. They grew up attended a 1-room schoolhouse. That's grades 1 through 6. Everybody just in there. Well, Halloween day, when I was 9 years old, at 1:15 in the afternoon. Now, Halloween when you're 9 is a pretty good day, especially if it's on a Sunday. And my dad dies 15 feet from me of a massive heart attack.
Man,
so
9 years old.
When I'm in the 8th grade, and I've got a mom that, the best we know, a 6th grade education, because that was a 1-room schoolhouse. She had to raise her siblings. I had 2 ties to my name. What kind of ties do you think those were? Well, you might not even know.
Them skinny little cowboy ties?
No, they were those old clip-on ties.
Oh, no, what you mean I wouldn't? What you mean I wouldn't know? Now they got like zippers for those fake things.
Well,
like a little hook, right?
Yeah. And here's what's amazing. If you're an 8th grader and you're trying to impress the 9th graders, it wouldn't be very cool to have a clip-on tie, would it?
Oh, it wouldn't.
So my mother goes to the local department store, buys me 2 ties. Now it's game day. What's my big dilemma?
How do you make a tie?
That's right. How do you tie the tie? So my basketball coach arranges to sneak me into the school building long before anybody in the building, takes me in his classroom, And he ties the tie on himself, hands it to me, put over my head, do it. Well, game after game after game, what's the next step? He teaches me how to tie the tie. I've never tied a tie in my life. State championship games, Final Four games, Division I, National Championship game, Division II, Division I game. I've never tied a tie in my life. I've not been thankful to Verna Wolf teach me how to tie a tie. Well, what it taught me, it taught me that coaches from that point forward would shape my life. Coaches, teachers, counselors, principals, assistant principals. I had a huge void in my life, and they shaped my life forever. My high school coach passed away 4 years ago, and he had he taught for 43 years, and he taught U.S. history. The amount of people that came to that visitation was unlike anything I'd ever seen, because he was one of those teachers that you would never forget. Well, he wanted no flyers. I don't know about you. I don't know about Orrin, but I'm very guilty. When it says in place and flyers, donate to, unless I do it on the spot, I forget. He didn't want flyers. He didn't want donations. He wanted shoes for children, for kids, because he taught. And when he retired, he ran clothing drives for needy kids. And he calls me and says, do you have any big size shoes? Because I'm sure your kids take care of them, and when they're through, they're still in great shape. So his last 5 years, I supplied him every shoe that we ever got rid of at Bellarmine. I got U of L's shoes. I got U of L's women's shoes. I got Bellarmine's women's shoes. So that day of his funeral, I've never seen so many shoes. And I asked the funeral director how many pair. He said there's 257 pair of shoes. So Monday morning, I called back out there and I said, where are the shoes? And they were at an elementary school here in Louisville that needed help. So those kids went to school that day, and they went home with a brand new pair of shoes because of my basketball coach. And when I'm passed, when I'm gone, all I want is shoes for kids, because these coaches shaped my life, and I want to be just like them.
How about that? So when you...
I played in high school. I played in high school, to answer your question. I played in high school. I loved it. Playing for my high school coach, it was incredible. I was a walk-on JV player at the University of Louisville. And again, this is going to be the third level. I wasn't into fraternities. I wasn't into drinking. I didn't do all that. I lived 5 blocks from the University of Louisville's campus. And in between classes, I didn't have a fraternity. I didn't have anywhere to hang out. I hung out in the gym. And between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock every day in Crawford Gym, the faculty played. Every day. I don't care if it was Wesley Unsell, Darrell Griffith, Butch Beard. I don't care who you were. 12-1, they were playing.
Right.
And one day they had 9 players. At the end, a professor had to leave, go give an exam. And this gentleman turned to me, had his sweatshirt on, blue jeans, and Chuck Taylors. And he said, hey, young man, we need a 10th. You want to play with us to the end of these games? And I pull the sweatshirt off, jump in the game. We get done, and he says, son, what's your name? I introduced myself. He said, you play in high school? I said, yeah, I played at Iroquois. He said, well, we have a JV team. And back then, all the major schools had JV teams. He says, you should walk on to it. I said, what do I do? And he points me out, go see the secretary, go see the trainer, go get a physical, go see the coach, Coach Jerry Jones. I said, okay. Well, the gentleman that did that, his name was Bill Olson. He was Denny Crum's assistant for 25 years, and he became the athletic director at U of L for 17 years. That day shaped the rest of my life. So if you go from the middle school coach, the junior high coach, my high school coach, Bill Olson. I coached Bill Olson's son at Ballard High School. His name's Doug. My son's name's Doug. Fill in the blank. He's named after Doug Olson. Doug Olson was named after someone that played for Coach Olson, a dentist. So it's 3 levels, and they're all named Doug, and they all played for the coach.
So Did you end up playing with Louisville?
No, I was only a JV player.
That's all right. No such thing.
But then I immediately, but though with Coach Crum, I mean, I was in the program then I was in.
Right. So that was my next question. So did you start working for Coach Crum right away?
No, I was a high school coach at an inner city school in Louisville.
Right. That was right. And then you won a state title with Ballard, right?
Yes, but that was way longer left. I coached, my first real coaching job was at a school called Aaron's High School in the inner city of Louisville. And I'll look everybody in the eye and tell them it was the most segregated school. And I will argue with anyone, it was the most segregated school, not based on race. It was because it was economically segregated. No one, the city of Louisville had undergone court-ordered busing. So all the schools were racially equal. They all were. But we were segregated based on economics. No one in that school had a thing. I don't care if you were Caucasian, African American, nobody had anything. And I wouldn't trade those 2 years for anything. My second year there in January, they announced they would close the school at the end of the year. And nobody said a word. We had one parent in 2 years, a gentleman named Chris Middleton. I wish he was the Chris Middleton in the NBA, but he wasn't. One gentleman named Chris Middleton's dad went. My wife at then was my girlfriend. Senior night, she would go out with our seniors. So they would have someone to escort them.
Right.
Wouldn't change it for a thing.
Now, obviously you had budgetary restrictions there too, right?
Well, the principal would give us these Frisch's Big Boy coupons. You got a Frisch's Big Boy, a shake, and a fry. And we use those as incentives. You would think we were taking them to the Jeff Ruby's, Ruth Chris, the greatest steakhouses in the world, because it was all relative. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. Those were the two of the greatest years I've ever coached in my life.
So here's my question, Coach. I remember, when you're young, when you're coaching, you're young and you're coaching, you think you know everything. At least I did. I was arrogant like that. And then one day I'm coaching and they throw it's my first year. I'm all by myself. I don't have no assistants or nothing. And they throw some 1-3, 1-3/4. I can point to the moment in my life when I finally acquired knowledge. Because until you get to that moment, you think you know. And then you finally realize that you don't know what you don't know.
It's a humbling profession.
Yeah, it is. But you know what I called everybody. I wanted to know. That was never going to happen to me again. And so, of course, we haven't necessarily been successful against that movement all the time, but I was going to be prepared from there on out. And I hunted coaches down. And because I knew I didn't know. And now I think the only reason I know anything is I've made so many mistakes. I promised myself not to, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You promise yourself, I'm never doing that. Like, I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. So when was your day that you recognized you didn't have any knowledge and you finally knew something? You knew enough to know you didn't know. That's actually.
Boy, I've never been asked that.
Well, told you where you live here, Coach.
It still happens to this day, to be honest with
you.
Yeah. We practice more situational basketball. We do things. This past year, we run a play that we call victory.
Right.
And we run at victory, and it's 1.7 seconds. We can go full court. And we've been successful on this at various times throughout my career. And we call it victory. And we can do it for a 2 or we can do it for a 3. 1.7 seconds right there, in that range, we're going to run it. And this year, in a game, we were going to run victory, but we had the ball at 3/4 court, not full court, and we had not practiced that, and that was my fault. That was my fault. We should have practiced it from 3/4 court. Yeah, I get it. It's the same play, but the passer's throwing a 3/4 court, not a 94-foot pass. Now, you know, I think it still happens, but looking back, when I left Aaron's, when they closed, I was the JV coach at Ballard. Right. And Ballard was a tremendous program. And we were going to get everybody's best shot and things like that. I think sometime during my career, I was a JV coach for 3 years. It would have happened. I'll give you a moment.
Here we go. See, I got you.
Yeah, I do have one. So
my coach. Before you answer, my son will kill me. My son's a former player at Yeshiva University. Now he's on their coaching staff. And he wanted to let you know, and we'll get into this in a little bit, he watches every single game you play on ESPN Plus. I'm telling you, because we'll talk about the similarities and stuff like that, but he'll kill me if I don't say it. And he's probably already texted me like 10 times. You better tell him. So
let me get to my moment, though. So we're playing Louisville St. X, an all-male parochial school. That it's a powerhouse, a tremendous. Mike Silliman, it was an NBA player, played at West Point. Right. They've had great players. So anyway, we're playing a big-time game at the end of the first quarter. I mean, it's sold out. All their males, everybody's chanting. It's 4-0. Let's score a point. Not a point. So I know, what are you going to say now? That moment hit you. I've never prepared to face a team in a timeout after an 8-minute high school quarter, and it's 4-0. I'll never forget. You know, I'm stumbling and mumbling through the huddle, and it finally hit me in the middle of the huddle, and I said, "Play like it's 2016. Let's go." And they all started nodding like bobbleheads. Okay. And out we went. But like it's 4-9. I'm like, I didn't prepare this. What do I do? And we're both playing away. I mean, it was like nobody's holding the ball. It was just a tough, rock fight. Two teams going at it. And that, I'd say in that huddle, like I stumbled and bumbled and finally I was like, okay, play like it's 2016. Let's go. And we did win the game handily. We did.
So where'd you get? Let me go back. So you coach at Ballard JV, then you coach a high school, then you coach the varsity, right?
I was the JV coach at Ballard. Then I went back to Louisville for 2 years as a graduate assistant, a true graduate assistant. I got my master's in college student affairs. And then I left. I always ran the camps. Louisville was big at camps. Back then, we would do roughly 800 to 900 kids over 4 weeks. I ran all the camps. I was offered a job at VCU under Mike Polio. And what really raises everybody's eyebrows here, the assistant coaches on that staff were Tubby Smith and myself.
Tubby from Southern Maryland, yeah.
And he wasn't Tubby Smith yet then, right? So I left to go back to Ballard as the head coach for 10 years, then back to Louisville under both Coach Crum and Coach Patino, and then to Bellarmine. Right.
So you work for Coach Crum, you work for Coach Patino, then you got your own program, and you don't seem to be let's get into the weeds now on your own stuff here. Who's your major influence on the offensive end of the floor?
Greg Popovich.
You can pontificate on that if you want.
Greg Popovich, and he was a Division III coach. I found a video one time called "The Beautiful Game." It's roughly 5 minutes long. It's when they were having that great run with Tim Duncan and Mono Ginobili and then I researched Pop, and Pop was a Division III coach in California, and I was like, man, that's just like me. And it was wild. We had a young man named Braden Hobbs, who was the D2 Player of the Year, and a scout from the Spurs came into Louisville to watch Louisville play. They didn't play till 9, so he came to watch our practice.
Right.
And he goes, this is the most unbelievable practice I've ever seen. Next thing you know, I get a call from an assistant from the Spurs, and I get all in on them, and they're just being thorough. I mean, Braden's played overseas 11 years with a phenomenal career. But then I get involved just really into the weeds, as you say, with the Spurs. I was all in. I mean, my gosh. And you know, I had our players watching the San Antonio Spurs, the beautiful game, and we would show it to recruits and evolve from there. But the biggest change in my career, I pressed when I was at Aaron's. I pressed as a JV coach at Ballard. I pressed when I was the varsity coach at Ballard. We had 28 Division I players in 10 years. We pressed you on missed shots. We did.
Right.
I mean, we wanted to press every opportunity. We were better than teams.
Right.
Well, then I get to Louisville. Now I'm under 2 Hall of Fame coaches, 2 of the greatest pressing coaches ever.
Sure.
And then I get the job at Bellarmine, and we're literally the Caucasian invasion. We're going to have a hard time pressing.
Right.
And we coined the phrase, press on offense. My whole life as a defensive pressing coach, we wanted to speed you up. That if we sped you up out of your comfort zone, you would take a quick shot, you would turn it over, dribble off your foot, you would charge. We were big on drawing charges. Well, now I said, what if conversely, if we speed them up, speed their defense up? The same result. If they make a mistake, if they don't communicate well because of our player movement, if they're in a 15-foot, like we can't go by you, but if I got a guy in a 15-foot closeout, maybe we go by him. So we coined the phrase, pressing on offense.
Right.
And off it went.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it has, I come, as we've discussed, as I've told you before, from a Bob Knight, Pete Newell motion kind of. And I would think the distinction between the two, as far as I could tell, the similarities are quite ridiculous. And I think maybe the lack of a 2 count per se, or, you know, which I sort of trade for now for quick reversal to force a long closeout. You know, at Yeshiva University, where my son played, and the coach is running this, it's sort of like the Jewish invasion. So we don't have like quick or anything like that. And so very much to your point, we're using those 15-foot closeouts to make a difference.
Well, the numbers don't lie, and I don't. If I'm being repetitive, I'm not aiming to. But when I left Ballard and went to Louisville under Coach Crum, way before the whole Popovich thing, I was already big on ball reversals.
Right.
And I want you to. It's hard to. I'll describe it. If I had a board, I would draw it. When I was at Ballard, I taped our floor throughout summer basketball, from the elbow to the midcourt corner, from the other elbow to the midcourt corner, from all 4 elbows to all 4 midcourt corners. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Well, it looks like a diamond, doesn't it? It looks like a diamond.
Right. Yeah.
The rule was all our summer basketball. And there, you know, we didn't have floor tape back then. I used the old white ankle tape. And the rule was, if you caught the ball anywhere inside that whole area, you had to reverse it, or you had to shoot. Well, if you had to reverse it, let's just say the ball's on the right wing.
Gotcha.
And the ball's being thrown to the top. Well, if you're on the left side of the floor, you better get open because the ball's coming to you.
That's right. So you're essentially you're essentially below foul line extended, so to speak, in your
anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah, but what I'm kind of saying, like,
if you're below the free throw line, lift up.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
And what happens with the court? The court opens up.
Sure.
It creates those closeouts. And then, of course, the 3-point shot makes those closeout much more urgent. So I go to Louisville, and we're not allowed any summer activities back then, but I take the court off. And I just tell the players, now when you play, this is how you do it. Well, Coach Crum thought I lost my mind.
Right.
And then, we come back year after year, and then we start doing it in the fall, and we start ball revert, and it gets better. Well, as it evolved, and then I share it with Coach Pitino. And he's like, boy, I like that. And I really do. He comes from the NBA background, everywhere. And we were playing very, very, very fast because we're pressing on offense. So when I get the job at Bellarmine, and then as we start really building this, the biggest thing that how do you sell it? How do you totally back this up without just coach speak? So we have done this every second of every game for the last now 13 years. We chart every possession, how many reversals.
You got it. Yep.
Now, on average, if there's no ball reversal, ball entered to the right side, either in transition or in a half court, and it never gets reversed, we're going to shoot between 30 and 34%.
I was going to say under 40%.
If it gets reversed one time, once, we're going to shoot 38 to 42%, maybe 44. If it gets reversed 2 or more, we're going to shoot 55 to 64%.
That's right.
Yeah, same shooters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's all that. If I could force you into decision, you see, I was talking to my other son who's also coaching over at Yeshiva, and we were talking about, well, what's the difference between what we're doing with the screens, flares down, back, and what Bellman's doing. They don't. I said, well, sometimes you'll catch them run that flare on that curl, and the kid will hit that. You'll run a cross screen or something, kid will hit that.
Yeah.
You don't totally not do it. So I said, well, the similarities are far greater than the distinctions between what we're doing and what you're doing.
We come out of timeouts. We come off dead balls, off free throws. We come out with calls. We do. But at the end of the day, it's a very chaotic game.
Right.
It's a game that has to flow because it's not, okay, let the play's over. Let's get our defense in like on football. Let's get our nickel package in, short yardage on offense, or let me get my reliever in because I need one strike right here. It's a very chaotic game. And where I think it grows for us is our players, when they are playing without us in a position of countable athletic activity where it's not counted, they play the same way. And the way we sold that, okay, if you were going to take an English test, you would not spend 1 week studying math problems. So our players, all off season, and whenever they're playing without us, why would you play any other way if when we go into a game, we're going to play our way? So we get better 12 months a year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so let's just go back a little bit so we get a little deeper in here. This whole, it's not really a no dribble because when the ball isolates, you'll go walk in. It's not really, they just call it no dribble, whatever they're calling your stuff. But I get what you're trying to do. It's the same thing. It's just being done. Look, ball movement, player movement equals buckets. That's just how this works. And right? I've been saying that forever on this podcast, or forever as long as we've been
Shot selection. I had a long talk one time with Coach Calipari about this. One year, they shot horrible. They shot 3 or 4 years ago, just horrendous. You're going to tell me those McDonald's All-Americans And those 5-star players are bad shooters? No.
Right.
It was taking bad shots.
Right, that's right. That's right. And usually most of those shots are coming too quickly before you make me do anything on the defensive end. Like that's really where this all stems from. So if you what's cool about what you're doing is you're playing at a pace where the shot clock's not really but if you're really doing what you're supposed to do, the shot clock's not really relevant because you're going to get a great look.
We want to give you a reference point. We want to be through the mid. I don't care if it's a made or miss basket.
Right.
Outlet pass, middle, we're in transition. We want the ball to cross through the logo, what we call the midcourt circle. We want the ball pass, in other words, from one side of the court to the other, either on the pass or the bounce. Pass the logo. We all know where the 28-foot hash mark is, right? We want that broken in 3 seconds.
32. It's a 35 clock, right? Is it 30 now?
30. We want that broken. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to shoot. Now, what's the first connotation is, then I'm going to shoot it fast. No. We want the defense on their heels. We want them to have to communicate early. We want them to have to sprint back. We want them reacting to us, not us reacting to them. Zone or man, it doesn't make any difference.
Right. So it's interesting. Sometimes this is kind of interesting because the way I teach is we're kind of like, we're not going to run, the same cut in the same, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, we're not going to back cut because we're right. But there will be times when you're playing, and I know it's a mistake, but it still looks beautiful, where you'll run a curl and another kid's running a basket cut right underneath or right on top of that curl.
No, it does.
And you know you made a mistake, but the world doesn't necessarily know you made right. I mean, you have that. Let's run that same cut right up his back, right? I mean,
we have some great rules. Like if you see the back of your defender's head, go to the rim.
That's right.
Go to the rim. Go to the rim. Yeah. Now, could that happen with two guys at the same time? It could, but go to the rim. Right. And we try our goal off the bounce or off a cut, off of a catch. If we can beat our man enough to where a half of a defender has to help. A half. Well, then that means somebody probably has to help him. And then somebody has to help that man. Well, the way the terminology we use, the chase is on now. Now the ball's moving. I will say this, and I'll say this with tremendous humility. If Coach Pitino and Coach Crum came to watch us practice, and they left nights on our gym, I think they're too classy of individuals that they would never do this in front of me. I think they would get in their car and laugh and say, I can't believe he does that.
Right.
That we are going through a 2-man passing drill, a 4-man passing drill, a 5-man passing drill. We might do it for 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Right.
But the ball is snapping.
It was never sticking, right?
Never. Well, if that's how we're going to play, then we've got to practice it. Right. And I think they would laugh. And the reason I say that, because there's more than one way to be successful in coaching. Everybody knows that. Sure. But for us, it's a tremendously fun way for our players to play. They show me somebody that likes going to their job, they're probably pretty good. Show me somebody that hates their job, they're probably a miserable person and not very good. So what we do is we want them really to embrace the way they're being taught to play. And then we love teaching it like that. Our practices, the tempo of our practices are insane.
It's got to be awesome. It's got to be awesome. I'm thinking, you would know what I'm talking about. Thinking it's a little Crutchfield on that too, right? Like up and down and and getting.
Yeah, their shot selection's a little different than ours.
Yeah, no, most definitely, and I might even argue their pacing's a little different, but it's a similar kind of a ball movement, people movement.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Think of the goal, though. Think of the goal. Think. What are the easiest 3 shots in basketball?
Layup.
This is the pop quiz of the night. What's the easiest 3 shots in basketball?
Layup.
A layup or a dunk, right? That's one.
Free throw.
Free throw.
And a wide open look.
Okay, but I'll differ. An inside out wide open look.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're talking to a guy who believes in inside out. So
not just throw it around the perimeter.
Yeah. Exactly.
So know this. We also chart challenge and unchallenged shots. The NBA, greatest players in the world, make 17 to 18% of challenge shots. They're the greatest players.
Because I've been freezing. Like even guys like Durant, and when you watch him play and they get challenged on their shot, even at his size, he has issues with that. He's still great and better than most. But you're correct. You are so correct.
We chart our percentage on inside out shooting, and the numbers don't lie. They don't lie. Young people today live in an era they want to be convinced.
That's right. Are you back to the? You're not necessarily back to the basket inside out, are you?
No. It can get an inside out off the dribble, off the pass, or off an offensive rebound. Any of the ways. So it can be off a catch. Right. It can be off a dribble. Now, let me say this. The basic fundamental of our program, offensively, no matter what you do it off 2 feet. You do it off 2 feet.
Jump and pass and all that.
Yes. Like we've never practiced or taught a running floater in our lives.
I don't do it. So as a matter of fact, I was just looking over something Steph Curry had put together once. And when I was looking through it, it was this 1 foot floater too. I go, I'm not floating. Now let me ask you this question.
What we do though, see what we say, and the reason we validate that, the greatest passer is a shooter. Because that means you're in a position attacking the rim that the defense is, you're going to command all the respect of the defense. The defense is immediately going to focus on you, which allows you to pass. If you stare the guy down, they're playing the pass. So the greatest passer is a shooter.
Right. So shot fake's a big deal for Bellarmine.
Yes.
Because it is for us. It's like shot fake, pass fake. I mean, there's no greater weapon.
No.
I think in basketball than the shot fake or the pass fake.
I mean, we throw 2 hand passes. We don't throw 1 hand passes unless we're running some full court play with a long baseball pass. There's no matter who it is. I don't care if it's Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. There's still a right way and a wrong way to play the game. From a fundamental standpoint, there is. And that's teaching.
No question about it. Well, it's teaching and demanding. Like you can, like I've always believed this. If you suggest something to a kid, you may or may not get it. If you demand it, you'll get what you need. And sometimes people don't like that, but you have a choice. You can do it this way and play or this way and watch. You choose. Because I got a clip tie in the back. You know what I mean? Like,
but if in our program, and I emphasize the word program, if we've introduced a drill or we've made a correction here, and there's a freshman standing there, there's a sophomore right there, and there's a junior, senior in his ear, echoing exactly what we said. Now, see, in sports. And I'm not being argumentative here, but we hear the word culture constantly. And we just don't use that word. We use the word program. And the reason program to me is defined, meaning you have a plan. Well, our plan is academically, athletically, and socially.
Right.
So we have a plan. You know, the way you are in class and your expectations, we're just next week going to finish our 36th straight semester of a team GPA of 3.0 or higher.
That's great.
2 years ago, we won the A-Sun Conference Tournament last year. We won the A-Sun Conference Tournament Championship. Never been done in history. And you know, people made a lot of issue about the NCAA rule, and I'm still, it'll never leave I'm still fighting. But the point that people don't know, they think it's good little old Bellarmine won it, and you know, they're the first team to ever do that, and that's great. Well, we had 5 seniors on May the 14th of 22 earn 8 college degrees.
Wow.
A master's in education, 2 masters in business administration, and a master and 5 bachelor's degrees. And you're going to tell me then my kids aren't going to be able to play in the postseason. This is out of your mind. So, you know, but no, we use the word program. And when that guy's in his ear and he's, you know, reinforcing what we're saying, then that, to me, that's a program.
Right, Coach. And I can't echo that enough, because I had this discussion with someone else yesterday that said that, well, because I was trying to teach him something, and he's like, well, what do you do when you're sophomore? Well, I expect my juniors and seniors to teach my freshmen and sophomore. That way we can get going. We don't have to go back and like say you come in as a freshman with your 9 classmates. I got to walk you through everything. By the time you're a junior, we're cooking now. We should be well into what we do, and you're going to have to bring these kids along because it's your locker room, and you got to bring them.
You know, Coach Katz, one of the biggest challenges in coaching right now, in my opinion, is teaching listening.
You got it. Yeah.
Well, they never have. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
They don't have to listen. All they do, you think of these kids now, they grow up reading their device.
That's right. That's right.
And I tell them, I cannot call a timeout and have you come to the bench. We practice timeouts. We practice on how we're going to communicate in timeouts. We practice timeouts. Well, I can't call a 30-second timeout. You sprint over and there'll be 5 phones laying there and you read what we need to say. You have to listen.
As I've said on this podcast before, Coach, if we play defense on WhatsApp, we'd be the greatest defensive team in the country.
Well, we now, and this is the truth, we practice. When we leave the huddle, let's say that on a make, we're going to be in 5 defense. On a miss, we're going to be 14. It doesn't make a difference what that is, right? We practice leaving the huddle and everybody repeating it to everybody. We practice that. Right. And it's the reason why. Okay?
That's correct.
All right. We're playing for a championship. And it's a 1-point game. 18 seconds to go, we get a stop, we win. Come out of the timeout, and we say, okay, this is how we're going to do this. And one guy doesn't listen. And he costs us a championship. How's he going to feel for the next, 8, 9, 10 months? So I don't want him to feel like that. I don't want him to feel like that. That's my job. So we literally practice listening. It's a lost art too. Don't kid yourself. And it's not their fault.
No question. And nobody demands it of them. So
no,
that's
we do. Don't say nobody. We do.
Well, you and me, Coach.
But we practice it. We practice it.
Yeah. Well, can you when you came, you brought, how many Division IIs did you bring with you? How many Division II kids did you bring with you? How many Division II kids won the Atlantic Sun?
Everybody but one on our roster.
Okay. And here's my next question. And
we had one Division I player.
That's right. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
What? First of all, that's awesome because I think a lot of those kids that you had in Division II got under recruited.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
So that's the big ball starting coaching is the ability to judge talent.
That's right. And I would argue successful teams, Tobin's over in New York, yours, Crushfield's, now his assistant over at West Liberty, whatever.
Yeah.
There's Division I talent on every one of those teams at Division I schools where I don't want to say lazy, but they just didn't do the work or whatever. For whatever reason, the kid grew late, but the Division I, he got under recruited. You come in with that entire group, and like I know we were going to scrimmage at Yeshiva. We were going to scrimmage the Tobin's team during a COVID year, and the two kids I just watched play on. Two of the kids we just watched on TV. We got Sky Report on. You know what I mean? Like we knew they could play, but so you come up with what's the difference between the kids that you brought and the kids you're recruiting now?
Well. I don't think there's any difference in the kids. I think it's who we recruit against is different.
I got you. Okay.
Our competition recruiting, we're not changed. We want kids. There's three facets that we evaluate. One, and I touched on it earlier, we want a young man who wants to be there.
Right.
And he loves being at Bellarmine. I mean, and I go back to my reference about show me the guy that loves his job. Show me the guy who hates his job. He's probably miserable, not going to be very good at his job. So we want him to love being there. Now, we want them to truly, truly love the players they're going to play with. And I point to this. Last June, we had a former player get married on a Saturday in June, first week of June. The following Friday, another player, one in Cincinnati, one in Louisville. That's 2 weddings in 7 days. There was 5 teammates in the weddings. They never met him. They had never met him until they walked on campus. Now you truly in with your team.
Great.
Now, the third component that we look for, we want a player who really, really wants to be coached hard. Like he understands what we're doing is for him. We're not doing it to him. And there's a big difference.
Coach, I'm going to interrupt you on that. Could you clarify that point for the young? We got a lot of young kids who tune into this. Clarify that about getting coached hard and what the distinction is, what you just said.
I'm doing it for you to make you the best you can be. I didn't wake up in the morning. I don't wake up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to go in the gym and, I'm just going to rip Garrett a new one today. Right. No, I don't do that. But I do wake up or stay up half the night. How can I make Garrett the best he can be? Now, so when a player understands that, he doesn't always like it now. But if he won't accept I'm doing it for him and he constantly thinks I'm doing it to him, he needs to go somewhere else for him.
Right. So are you so on that point, are you recruiting your system player? Or are you recruiting anybody and we'll fit you into what we do? In other words, there's got to be a kid. Let's just say, Coach.
Well, this is the last component. So the last component of that not only do they love their teammates, they want us to coach them. It's players that we want to coach too. That's right. It goes both ways. Hey, not everybody's the same, but we want to.
So now you're recruiting. And you're going to watch a kid play, and it's dribble, ball screen, dribble, ball screen, dribble. Are you looking at that kid and say, boy, we can make something out of him? Or are you just going like getting that out of him is going to be a little too much?
Well, then we will evaluate every facet of the player. For example, quickness. I'm old school. The first thing I've ever learned in recruiting, find out how old the kid is. Coach Olson told me that. We've got a young man that's going to walk on for us, and I can't go through his name because he's a walk on. But he came to our campus. I think this kid's upside is incredible. And the first question we asked him, we said, "When's the last time you shaved?" It might have. I don't know if the kid shaves once a month. And this kid, I said, name me your birthday. He played his entire senior year at 17 years old. Didn't turn to 18 till before he graduated. That kid could have been theoretically a junior in high school, not a senior.
Right.
So we start evaluating from right there, and then their physical skills, yes, but at the end of the day, and you keep referring to our program and our system. Well, we want players who want to become us. When they want us to become them, that doesn't work very well.
I underscore that 1,000%.
A lot of players would like to try to prove they're more hard-headed than me. It doesn't work very well.
No, you'll get a transfer, and all of a sudden the transfer will come from some school where they were losing and they were running this business, and he comes here and says, well, we should run what we run over there. And you should be like, well, you know what? We like hanging banners over here. So you go back over there.
Though, think about the young people now, and I'm their advocate. I've said that early. It's very difficult separating what they need to hear and what they want to hear. That's a challenge every day of their life. That's a challenge every day.
What's the difference? What's the difference in the players that you were? Forget the talent pool. I'm just saying let's just go to when you started at Bellarmine. What's the difference today? Is there a difference that you see in recruiting from the kid at Bellarmine when you first started to the kid at Bellarmine now?
Expectations, just because the program. Bellarmine, I came in the spring of 2005, had won 9 games the year before, never been in a conference tournament. In 6 years, we won a national championship.
Right.
And if you say how, and you want me to diagram, go back through the offense and the ball reversals and all this stuff, that's not it. And when I do a clinic, I get asked, how'd you do that, coach? The greatest recruiters in our program, it's our players. That's right. Yeah. And if you had a medical practice and you had 5 tremendous physicians, and you're going to go to 6, well, that 6th one you got 5 great physicians. That 6th great one would want to join your team, or in a law practice or accounting. So the greatest recruiters in our program. We lost a recruit today, and I asked him point blank on the team he chose how many of their players he had met, and he told me 2. And I was appalled.
Right.
He's been to our campus twice. He's played with every player we have. He has been with our players constantly. I said, why do you think that is? There's a reason.
Right.
I mean, we've got a young man on an official visit right now. He has spent all last night with all our whole team, and again tonight. I mean, I took him and his dad and his grandfather to dinner and couldn't get fast enough to get here to do this. And he's spending the whole time. They're watching NBA games. They're in the dorm because here's why. When they leave that huddle, like I said earlier, who do they have?
Each other.
That's right. They don't have me.
Right. And so for people who don't understand what Coach was trying to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, you only met 2 of them. The other ones, there's something's undercurrent over there. In other words, you met the 2 that they wanted you to meet, and
That's
it was whom they didn't want you to meet.
That's right.
I mean, I was coaching in college for 20 plus years, and I mean, to me, you know what I enjoyed the most in college, Coach? Like, we would practice and we'd stretch before a game. We'd stretch before practice. 5, 10, 15 minutes, guys are stretching. And I'd love walking over to guys and say, boy, I saw a kid last night. He is so much better than you. He gonna come in here, take your job. Kid's like, Coach, why you do me like that? Because you need to just play harder. But I can't wait to watch him. He's going to bust you up, Coach. You bring him over here, little 9th grader. I said, no, he's going to be good. He's 2 inches tall. And you get that kind of, and everybody's joining in. And that's sort of the kind, I want to bring kids into that program. We
do individual instruction 3 days a week, 4 days a week during preseason, in the season, and in our afternoon practice time. And individual instruction is physical and mental. Yeah, in 35 to 42 minutes, we might get up 165 to 225 shots at game speed. But the middle part of that is, hey, Harold, you got that psychology test, man. You ready? You're good with that today? Oh yeah, coach, I got it. I'm good to go. And so it's, hey, what's going on? And the middle part of individual instruction, think about it. We've all gone through these full practice with 13, 14, 15 players. And some players get a lot more attention. Well, in a group, then they do. Let's face it, they get more attention. Well, what happens in individual instruction when there's 5 guys? Everybody's important. Everybody cares. And it's a big difference in our program. You think about a college kid in this day and age. Let's say, theoretically, at a 9 o'clock class and a 12 o'clock class over 9:50. So he's got from 10 to 12. What's he going to be doing in those 2 hours? Sleeping, eating, on a device, right?
Right.
I don't know how many are going to go study from 10 to 12 in the morning. No. Some, but not many. All right. So we have these individual instruction groups, and they're in there, and then we're seeing them, and then they're going to come back, and in the afternoon is all about team. It's all about team. Let me give you one little drill. This is great.
Sure.
We use this as a teaching tool. And I'll give you another quiz. In a 2-hour practice, the moment the stretch ends and you start practice, if a kid shoots a ball, in other words, live drill, a dummy drill, a competitive drill, scrimmage, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, I don't care. If he shoots it, record it. How many shots do you think a kid in 2 hours shoots?
We're just talking about that before you came on here. With a gun or without a gun?
No.
You know what I mean?
No. This is in an organized team practice.
2 hours.
All 15 players.
Yeah, all of them
If he
together.
takes one shot, we're going to count it. How many?
Let me think here. I'll say this: I think 100 would be too many. 100 would be too many.
No more than 30 to 50 shots.
Yeah, see, 100 would be too many. I was going to go around 50 to
30
70.
to 50 shots. So what are you teaching? Why not affect the game? Why not a deflection, a back tap, a loose ball, a great screen, a block out?
Work on the 95%. Work on the 95%. We talk about it a lot. Work on the 95%. You're gonna have the ball maybe 5% of the time. Work on the 95%. You want to be great. Like everybody works on the 5% 24/7. If you want to be great,
affect the game a lot of ways.
That's exactly right. And you're dead right on the screen. You're dead right. And that's why when we set them, we want our guys pointing at the screen. Like, dude, you know what I mean? Like after I get a bucket, that's our bucket. That's not your bucket.
We call that, we have a name for that, and we call that, we never delay gratitude.
That's right.
If a guy draws a charge and 4 players don't sprint, and I don't mean jog, and I don't mean kind of nonchalant, sprint and pick him up, you're coming out of the game. If you don't acknowledge a pass, my slogan in practice, hey, you better tell him good pass because he might throw it next time. If you don't, he might not.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you're right about that. And it's a pet peeve of mine. Like if I set that screen and you call that for a bucket, you better acknowledge me because I did not come here to kind of just be your, like, that's why I hate this. You'll watch pickup and they take some big kid and he's just going to ball screen for some little guard. And then
it's the guy that keeps an offensive rebound alive that results in a basket. He should get one of those points because you wouldn't have scored if he didn't keep that ball alive.
That's right. They're our points. Those are it's not, you may get credit with your assist, but that belongs to us. That's our assist. That's our bucket. That's
the one thing that never change. It's a team game. Always has and always will be.
It never will. And I think we're in danger, in my opinion, we're in danger in this day and age of this ball screen on every level, just dumbing down our kids, where you stay in that corner, you stay in that corner. This is why in my opinion, this is why you're so successful, in my opinion. Because every night, for the most part, everybody's seeing that ball screen stand in the corner thing. And you come
That's
in
right.
there,
The first thing they do in practice is teach ball screen defense. That's right.
That's right. And they don't know what the hell's going on when you show up. How many ball screens you set a game?
I had a recruit today ask me, and this kid's arguably one of the quickest kids I've ever recruited. And he asked me about our lack of setting ball screens. And I said, I looked him in the eye and I said, why do you set a ball screen? And he looked at me. He goes, I said, why do you set ball screens?
Yeah.
And he said, well, so the player can get downhill. I said, well, yeah, it's because he can't get downhill by himself. So you're trying to take out the defender. But at the same time, you're bringing another defender there. I said, you're one of the quickest kids I've ever recruited. Why do I want to bring another defender to you? I want you to blow by the guy by yourself, and we'll play 5-on-4 basketball.
Exactly. Why would you bring more? It's, Coach, outside of the screen pass in football, I can't think of one offensive design in any sport that brings more defense to the ball. Right. And the only thing that does is the ball screen. The screen pass, we're bringing you there so we can throw it away from you. We're baiting you.
Harold, you made a great point, Coach, that everybody practices ball screen defense constantly. And when they play us, it's totally different. You're right. But we have to be different. But it's a fun way to play. We love playing like this. We do.
Well, and it's a fun thing to watch. From a purist standpoint, if what you were after was the beautiful game, I have a player who lives in Israel now, and I said, Coach at Bellarmine is coming on my podcast tonight. Watch his team play, and all he said back to me is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And my response is, if you sit out with Coach Pop, and that's what you wanted, that's what you got, because it's actually beautiful to watch for a guy like me.
Well, they're very special players, and our fans, and where we've changed and we've grown as a team, and we had to. Everybody, we've spent this whole time talking about how well we play together, and we pass the ball, and you set that screen, you get this guy a shot. 4 years ago, we made a real commitment and a real kind of self-scout, and we changed. And now we teach defense together.
Yeah,
we now defend. We now defend as a team. We do a lot of 5-on-4, 5 offensive guys against 4 defensive all the time in practice. Well, sure. It's a great offensive drill, but you know what's happened? It's helped us defensively because we get beat a lot. So if we guard them with 4, surely we guard you with 5.
Right, and when I watch you play, you can watch the rotation, and sometimes you're in scramble. It's almost like if you do what you do, in other words, I do the same thing that you're talking about, where I play 5-on-4, sometimes 6-on-4, sometimes 6-on-5. But when I do that, I can tell what teams do that in practice and what teams don't. Yeah. And the best part of watching your teams play is they will stand there and get run over. You may not always get the call. Yeah. I can think of the Louisville game for one early on where you took one and you didn't catch it. But that's what you're going to do. I just my high school team just played in the basketball. Oren can correct me. I think we took 7 charges that first night and then 8 the next night. It was something like that. And when you can get your teams to do that and play together like that, and you really, honestly, by making them play at that disadvantage, that people don't get it. You can tell. I can tell when I watch you play that you're rotating against many in practice.
It's in a way, it's a little bit embarrassing, but Like, I would have never been the coach ever that says, all right, let's run this drill and you can't dribble. Like, I would have never done that because you can't do that in a game. And I'm just not, I think you should do what's real, right? And 2 years ago, last year, I keep saying 2 years ago, last year, I'm already in the next year. Last year,
that's all right.
We went through a little spell, and I said, okay, we're going to go 5-on-4. We call that scramble. We're going 5-on-4. No dribble. I'm sick of it. Right. And honestly, it's evolved from these type things where sometimes 5-on-4, we're better when we don't allow them to dribble than we are when we allow them to dribble.
Right.
I mean, that happens.
Ball's moving, and I mean, you're talking about the offense. Ball's moving, and if I can make you close, if I can force multiple closeouts, I'm gonna win. That's your statistic of 2+. When you get 2+ reversals on that, we want we had really good post players at Yeshiva, so we wanted great passers out of the post too, and we wanted a post to get the inside out or to get the foul trouble post bucket. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we're getting cutters off the back cut off a post entry, and then we'll bounce pass it or whatever it is. So we want the 2 ball reversals plus the post touch. And that post touch could be mid post or high post, or you know what I mean? Like we don't want him sitting on the lane line. Like you don't, obviously, because you want that movement. I mean, they don't sit on the lane line for you. So but we want that inside out movement that you were talking about. It's just it's the same goal is what I told my son earlier today. We have the same goal in forcing you to make a mistake defensively, and we just cut it a little different, if you know what I mean.
Oh, sure.
Although, like I'm saying, I don't think the distinction is that great. It's a very...
we use all the time, you can't put X's on the floor and make them robots.
That's right.
Yeah. You can't do that. We wish we could, but, you can't do that. But I think one of the things that's lost is teaching people how to play.
Dude, it's like, hey, Oren, we should rename this. We should rename this podcast after Coach, because he's repeating the same. Like I've always said this, Coach. You can, if you teach a kid to play, he can run your play. If you teach him to play, he can run any play.
I can take our facilities team. They're kind of located behind our gym. I could take our facilities team and teach 5 of them to run our thumb up our transition. But I'll tell you this, they can't play a lick. Right.
But they can run your play, though. And like Coach McKillop, he's always like when people joystick their teams like that. You know what I mean?
Boy, he's tremendous. He is tremendous.
Yeah. I stole something from him, too. Attack space. So we started to attack space, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I did a clinic with him in Detroit last year, and boy, I had a ball being with him.
Yeah, you guys actually do that, always attack space. But I probably kept you a little long. Sorry about that, Coach. Probably kept you a little long here.
I was trying to check. Make sure something that just came through.
No, you're good. I probably kept you longer than I said I was going to keep you. But I really do this for hours, and these poor insufferable people are going to have to deal with us. This your point about kids can't play. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. A few years back, OKC goes to Europe, and they play. Westbrook is playing for them, and they get beat by I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Bogut's team. It was somebody out in Europe, and he said the exact quote, "You don't understand. It's much harder to guard these guys than it is to guard in the NBA, because the NBA, they're not as athletic, so they just got to do other things, move and cut. And well, I mean, if that's not the greatest indictment on American basketball, I don't know what is."
Yeah, I mean,
like what? You mean the kids at Bellarmine are getting layups? And we're going 15 from 3, for 18 from 3. Like, how is that happening? because it's just like I think your major advantage is how do I prepare for you?
Well,
if I'm running ball screen all day, how do I prepare for you?
No, I hope so. This past season, I give our players so much credit. We had 2 surgeries in the off season. We had 4 major surgeries from December 9th to December 21st, and we've had 2 in the off season, and not a one of them complained.
Yeah,
and there's something about their love of the game. They're not going to play in the NBA. Like I said, there's 450 NBA players on rosters. 360 are eligible to play. But there's something about that love for the game. And we recruit to that. I mean, we really do. And they know when they come here, I can stay up there and play all night or I may go. Our players have access to our gym 24/7. But we never want them to go by themselves because you got somebody then to push you. We've been in the weight room the last 5 weeks. It's been brutal, but it's teammates in 2-3-man rotations, screaming at that guy to get the most out of him. Because if I do that for you, you'll do that for me. And then it changes daily.
Coach, would you say, let me put it this way. Would you trade, I don't want to say athleticism, but would you trade the guy who may not necessarily fit into what you wanted? May not fit.
I'm going to go to my grave wondering if the way we would have played, how would it be if a Power 5 school with phenomenal athletes, Power 5 athletes, etc., played like we play? How good would that be?
Well, I mean, my personal opinion, I think everybody should be running.
That would be incredible.
We're essentially coming from the same school. Okay, ball movement, player movement equals kind of buckets. So we're running. And you have a ton of Coach Knight stuff in there, and whether it's like some reverse action stuff from Coach Newell or whatever. And so we're skinning the cat, but it's very similar to what you're doing. And I've always said, boy, if they ran our stuff, they'd be great.
Now, and if we do it, and we do it daily. But I think one of the last things I think I should say, we're very, very consistent in how we teach.
Well, I mean,
they understand, tempo, the right way and the wrong way to do it from a fundamental standpoint. But we're very, very consistent. Like we don't, oh yeah, he got away with that. That's fool's gold. That won't last.
You got that right. Yeah. So to follow up on this point, do you ever find a kid you just know, boy, that'd be the best kid ever played for us at Bellarmine, but he doesn't fit?
Oh yeah. Oh, no question. Yeah. Again, that's the guy that we want them that want to become us, and the ones that want us to become them, it doesn't work so well. That's awesome. That does. But that comes from your leadership within your team, though, too. And we've been phenomenal leaders.
But that comes from you, too. In other words, your leader is only the leader. He may come in as a leader, but you have to allow him to lead like that, too.
No, we
a lot of.
And, the other thing that really happens is that, as we teach, the more that your student wants to learn, the better you're going to be more effective as a teacher. He's got to want to be a sponge, man. And if it's breaking a bad habit, if it's showing him on film, when everybody wants the same thing, is willing to do whatever it takes to get it, that's powerful.
And no one cares who gets the credit. And no one cares who gets the
when the greatest of great teams celebrate each other. They don't celebrate themselves.
That's right. That's right. I Coach, I'm gonna let you go. I could do this with you all night, like I said.
Well, we can go up anytime. Just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, somebody, Pop, did you want to say something? No. Was that you trying to interrupt me?
Nope, not me.
No? Okay, good. Get away. Coach, I just want to tell you, it has been an extreme honor for me as not only a fan of your program, but a fan of you yourself for a long time. And this education for me now. And I'm hoping that we got an opportunity to
anything we can do, reach out to us. You know, you got all my numbers.
We may have you again now.
Okay, let me know.
All right, man. Have a great night, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. Have a good night.
Stay safe. Everybody be good. Take care.
Oren, where you at? Is Oren still around?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still here. Wow, that was, as a spectator, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, see, so a lot of things I tell you. First of all, if you, I told you guys a story. I don't think I did it on air. And the first thing they asked the kid was how old he was. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
That's, I told you, how old are you? But Coach just verified that. Because that's the first thing a guy seriously recruiting you is going to ask you, how old are you? Because if you're 18, I'm not interested. But if you're 15, you need to come see my locker room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's growth here. So go ahead. What were you going to say, Oren?
No, it was great to hear his life story, his coaching philosophy. There are several similarities between your philosophies, that's for sure. He actually answered one of my questions about the transition rule. He is not a fan, sir.
No, that's why I didn't ask it. So I wanted to. There were a couple times where I wanted to bring you guys in and say, see, it's not just me who thinks this way, right? Like so many things we've been saying the last 11 weeks, last 12 weeks.
Repetition.
Here's your basketball coach who's won national championship, who's in Division I, who's kind of set the headlines on their ears. And he's saying the exact same thing. And yes, you're going to kids don't get it. And I want kids to actually listen to this. We're going to pass on you if you ain't going to try to run our stuff. You're just not worth it for us. Like, you're a great player and you're going to have great success. It's just not going to be here. Here's what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And I know, like, a lot. You're talking to a guy who, like, he just asked you about that ball screen. And did I not just talk about that a couple of weeks ago about, you know, the ball screen and bringing defense to the ball? You're just watching the premier kind of Division I offense and its movement. Talk about the very thing. And so, boy, that was great for me. I'm sorry we didn't get to acknowledge the Sheep World League pass. You want to do that now, Oren?
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, I think for the next few minutes, let's make the breakout room available to anyone who wants to hop on and potentially ask Coach a few questions about his interview with Coach Davenport or anything else that's on their mind. So I'll monitor that for the next few minutes. And we do want to thank, we do want to give a special recognition to Yeshiva League Pass. And again, for our viewers to please subscribe to the Harold Katz Podcast YouTube channel.
So, I mean, for me, that's a thrill to be able to talk basketball with somebody like Coach Davenport. It's just, he's, I mean, it's not so much that our philosophies are similar. It's that when he's working from a common sense standpoint. Mm-hmm. In other words, I've said this plenty of times on this podcast, you know, teach a guy a play, he can run your play. Teach him how to play, he can run anything. And here he was saying the very same thing. And I think that's, I mean, maybe it's his age and my age or whatever, but I think I would hate to have to prepare for him. I think we'd have as good a chance as anybody to prepare for him because we run we can run against that kind of movement every day.
Yeah.
But
But he'd also be able to prepare for us the most. It goes both ways.
Yeah, it would. I mean, yeah, it would. It's a little different as far as the screening is concerned, although they do screen some. Yeah, it'd be very difficult. It'd be very difficult, but that's sort of the thrill of coaching. I mean, the one thing I don't want to see is the same old boring, come get that ball screen, you stay in the corner and jack shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're seeing that every night. So, and the problem is it's trickled all the way down to high school. And look, people are asking me about the NBA playoffs and stuff. I mean, I don't think I've watched more than a minute and a half. What I do like to watch is I'll go on YouTube the next day and watch Barkley and Shaq, or something like that. But the game itself, I just have zero interest.
I'm with you, Coach.
Outside of Golden State, it's not really exciting to me.
No,
Coach, we have a question chat, and viewers can obviously, as Oren said, they can also join in and talk live if they don't want to send their question in chat. The question is, how did you become
guts to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, if you have the guts to join live, go ahead. But for those who don't, the question is, how did you become aware of him? So I'm not sure if the question is asking, how do you know who Coach Davenport is, or what's your connection to him?
Where Coach Davenport, he was Allen Houston's basketball coach in high school. So
all you 90s Knicks fans out there.
Yeah, for the 90s Knicks fans, he coached Allen Houston in high school. It's funny because when I want to, what year was that? We're invited someplace, and one of those teams was I don't remember. Oh, it might have been when I was at UMBC, and we were recruiting a kid from out that way, and they played Ballard. And he's right about that press 24/7. That's kind of how, but they were loaded too, so we really get a great look at the kid. But that's the first time I came across him, and there's always, and then we have a former player from Goucher College who coached in Division II, Damian Pitts, and we were very aware of, and we played like Bloomsburg and them when I was at Goucher, so we were very aware of Division II teams in the landscape, and Coach Crutchfield, which I referenced during the interview, was at West Liberty, where he consistently went to the Final Four or the Elite Eight, and then he was at Nova Southeastern this year, and in Florida, and won the national championship by beating West Liberty, his former assistant. So I'm aware of coaches on this other level. Bellarmine was a Division II staple. So, matter of fact, I think one of the coaching, McGregor used to put out had these coaching clinics. He's put out a book, of the coaching clinic, and the guy's speech at the clinic. And I believe Coach's picture was in one of those books, one of those years. He was that where I saw it? I think it was in a McGregor book. I might be wrong. But I always knew of him when he was with Coach Crum. So but now that he's on his own, he's getting to do his, like, if you watch him play, like, he don't play anything like Louisville and either one of those coaches. They didn't really play that style that he's playing right now. So it's really his own thing. It's kind of cool. It's exciting. There's a lot of coaches. There's a lot of coaches I've been, whatever, I'm old. We'll say about that. I'm old.
I mean, so. The resume is right there. I mean, the success speaks for itself. I mean, already what he's accomplished at the D1 level in such a short time span. I mean, they did last year what everyone was talking about with Merrimack this year, and the fact that he won his conference tournament last year. I didn't know the Bellarmine won their conference tournament. last year, and they missed out on the opportunity to dance.
And they couldn't get in.
Yeah.
So, it's sad. I think it's a stupid rule, to be honest. And I think it's now that you have an LOI, I think the whole thing was that the class that came in Division II, like that class that came in as freshmen wouldn't be able to play Division I, if you know what I mean. That may have been the thing behind the 4 years. I don't know. But it's a stupid rule. It's like everything else in the NCAA. It's basically a stupid rule.
Yeah. I don't know. After having the opportunity to be on a Zoom call with on a podcast with Coach Davenport, if we ever get a Bellarmine Knights FDU Knights matchup in Teaneck, New Jersey, I might have to root for Bellarmine now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Oren. That's a little what is it called? Treasonous? A little treasonous. But I hear somebody get the job at FDU, right? Somebody who got that?
Yeah, Jack Castleberry.
Where was he at?
I think he was part of Tobin's staff at St. Thomas. Can you confirm that, Pop?
Yeah, I think he was Tobin's assistant, I believe.
Yeah.
Good for him. But like he told, like Coach just said, everybody but one guy had played in Division II, which goes back to what I've told you guys before, that the talent Division II and Division III level is sort of ridiculous. And people don't understand. Guys get under-recruited for whatever reason. I have my own feelings on why that is. It's not something I want to address right now, but
Coach, is it customary when these D2 programs get promoted, they go up, that they take their D2 players with them, or are there some programs that start entirely from scratch?
They can't take all of them. Like Tobin went to a new school, so he brought some of his players, right? This whole school went up. It wasn't like a coach got a new job in Division I school from Division II.
Right.
The whole school kind of went up.
In fact, the whole school players committed today for the draft, Dimitri Roberts.
Who's there? Who did now?
Dimitri Roberts. He was one of the players that Tobin took with him to Fairleigh Dickinson, and he
right. I'm saying, so that was coaches. Like the kids who win that national championship, most of them were playing Division II. I mean, the kids that won that conference title, most of them were playing Division II basketball. Like, how cool is that? What kind of testimony is that to a coach? If that don't testify to his abilities and approach and all that, I don't know what does. And by the way, I think a lot of that has to do with their murder to prepare for it.
Right.
Just, that's my take.
Yeah. And I've never been to the Bellarmine campus, and frankly, I probably never will, but it seems like a real terrific program, a great culture, and they seem like a real tight unit over there.
Keep the culture thing. By the way, that is the thing. It's funny that he said I've never used the word either. Culture. Yeah. Only thing I ever knew about culture was my kids.
The thing is, isn't program and culture, aren't they kind of synonyms in a sense?
Well, they may be, but culture is let's just say culture is more of a, it's not attitude. That's not the word I'm looking for. Culture is
I guess in the basketball sense, that they seem like they match up to me.
No, a program is everybody's involved. Everybody's responsible. The culture is like an esoteric, is our culture. Is our culture. Is the culture. It's more of a pro term. Mm-hmm. And in college term, it's not good. This is our program.
Program, organization, culture, philosophy.
I think I wouldn't even use organization, because organizations sound, it's more of a top-down thing. This is program is your guys are your program. Culture, your guys are not your culture. Your culture is like but your program, your guys are your program. That, to me, that's the distinction.
And I guess
guys,
right. And it's more permanent, like culture changes over time.
Well, obviously.
That's why you can't really have a culture. Because players come and go.
Yeah, your program, yeah, pretty much. So it's not really a culture, right? But your program's really led by your kids. Right. You set the course, but your kids got to.
I absolutely love that part when he talked about the kids being the flagship of his program. You know, like. Yeah.
I mean, when you
like he said, he's the biggest advocate for them.
Just think about YU basketball and its growth in these last 8 or whatever years. I mean, they're really from Mikey Berg to Donnie and Simcha. You know, I guess
so it's kind of funny when I think about those players. For some reason, I think the word culture. I can't help it.
I think program. Like that's it because you're a fan, dude.
Right.
Culture is a fan word. Program is a coaching word.
Right. I don't have a coaching background, so maybe that's.
But coaches mean something totally different when they say program. Like in our program, this is how we're going to play. Mm-hmm. In our culture, you understand what I mean? Culture, a catch-all phrase. Your program are your kids. And it was cool that he said it because it's something we've talked about before. So it's cool. I think it's kind of cool. I'm sure there's going to be critics who you and I both know who are going to say, well, you just bring down guys who agree with them. Well, we're not going to be doing that in the future. So, good coaches are good coaches. I don't care what you run. Yeah. We play against a lot of coaches that run stuff that we would never run. They're still good coaches,
Yeah.
So,
you
got Pop.
I got nothing for you, Coach. Do you have any previews on future shows?
Future shows. I was just read my mind.
Well, we do. Part of our problem is on the one night that we want to do it is like I've been told is game 4 of some stupid hockey thing. Something. Game 4 is Monday night. Is that right?
Let's take a look there. I think you're right.
So yeah, and then
It's also the next playoff game or something.
We're competing. We're not sure. Both New York markets. Let's see.
We have a phenomenal guest for Monday, but from what I understand, we may have to kick that Pop.
No Knicks.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
As long as you're subscribed to the Herald Katz podcast on YouTube, you won't miss an episode. Unless you're watching hockey, right? If you're subscribed to the Herald Katz podcast on YouTube, you won't miss an episode regardless of what date it's on.
That's true.
Unless you're watching hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct. But I didn't know what it was like for everybody else. You guys could tell me, but for me, it was a thrill. So just to be able to kind of dig deep inside a program and kind of get a part of the vision and the heartbeat. And I mean,
I was plugged in from beginning to end. It was, yeah.
If you're gonna build a program, he's a pretty good guy to learn from.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're at the yeshiva league level. I don't care if you're at I hope kids like our yeshiva league past people, the kids in that group or the young coaches paid attention to what he had to say about players. Like that, and about getting shots up. And
he also kind of gave a crash course on what he asks prospective players that our kids should take note of.
No question. That's what we talked about that the other day. What kids think college coaches want, they have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. And the high school coach may have no idea because he has no idea.
But Coach, it's kind of like a job interview, and these kids have to be prepared for that.
Well, yeah, because as much as you may want to go there, they may reject you, and that happens far more often than you think it does.
Right?
Where coaches go, you're gonna have a good career. It ain't gonna be here though, And I've come up against that a lot.
Right. So, yeah. Do you you really gear them up for it? You tell your players before they go in for an interview, for a meeting with a college coach, dress to impress, be polite, ask the right questions, answer the right questions.
Yeah, be prepared. If you're fixing a player, you better be the confident person that you are when you play on the floor.
Right.
Or don't go in there and, you get on the floor and you're toughest guy out there. And then, you get in that interview and your head's down, you don't look him in the eye and you're either poor mouthing it,
Yeah.
So you can't do that. Can't be arrogant now, but you can't sit here and think, boy, you need me more than I need you. Because
a lot of the D3 coaches and a lot of low-level D1 coaches, I noticed on their roster pages on their team sites, their emails are listed. Do you think it's ill-advised, or do you think it couldn't hurt if a player reached out to a coach via email, or it's a waste?
You can reach out via email, just get yourself noticed, but if you send a highlight film, you may as well.
Right, we talked about that many times on the show.
I got a highlight film a couple weeks ago. A kid sent me a Coach Poppers highlight film.
Yeah.
So you might get me interested for a minute, and then I'll watch to see some film. But like again, kid will say, "Here's what I averaged." They'll go through all their basketball stuff and then throw in what their SAT and GPA is at the end.
Right.
I played on this AAU team and I was a 2, and then I was at this AAU a 4. Don't send that to us at YU.
The thing is, how does a player ensure that when they're making the introduction that their goals, like, how do you dig into a coach's psyche and know that coach's goals align with your goals?
I'll tell you how. First, if you're watching the team play, and you don't like the way they play, your goals do not align.
So tune out. Go in a different direction.
Anyway, and then if you come and you start crying and moaning about, well, we back in my place we did it this way. See ya. Don't let the door hit you or God split you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's time to go. And there are a lot of guys when they transfer in who start making demands and stuff like that. And that there's a reason we won and they didn't. And it had more to do with our ability to get things done than their ability to win their
right. It goes back to what you say regularly. Ryan Terrell and Gabe Leifer are gone, but we run the stuff that won us championships with those guys.
It means somebody's gonna have to convince me there's a reason to change. I right now I don't see any reason to change it. Obviously Elliot can change anytime he wants, but I'm not sure that wouldn't be a little foolish, considering look at the 15 years previous and the years since.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And tell me you want to go back to that.
No.
Been there, done. You know what I mean? I prefer to be in a conference title race and NCAA tournament watch every year.
Yeah.
You don't like that? Well, shouldn't come to this school.
Right.
Like that. You know what I mean? Like I said, we've turned, I know Elliot and Donnie and Ellie and Joe, Mike, they've turned kids away who we knew could play for us, but just weren't going to fit. Sometimes we still get them, but for the most part, most of the guys are great guys. If not all, almost everybody we've ever had, great guy. Whether the system was meant or right for them, I don't know.
Right.
I would argue.
You talked about the D1 programs like having like spring workouts right now, but it's a little bit different. Yeah.
You just talk, where you have small little groups, and there's a lot there. If people should listen to it. There's a lot. He gave us a lot of information. It was great.
Yeah.
I'd have loved to go.
Oh, he was great. I'd love to have him back on.
Because I would have gone way deep with him, but we,
I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see his non. I'm on the team site right now. I can't wait to see when their non-conference schedule is posted for next year, because they played some top programs this past season.
They beat Louisville opening day or something like that.
Yeah, they beat Louisville in their first game.
Yeah, it was like I think it was a 1-point game or something, and they were up double digits late.
Yeah,
like 4 minutes left, so they hung on a little bit. Got to stop when they needed it, but it was
they
cool.
Played Wabash in D3.
Yeah, but I think that's what guys like that are going to do. Just like Pop, I think guys like that are going to do. They're going to go back and give somebody a chance to play.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? That's where I came from.
No, I think it's great.
That's what he's saying. He's saying I came from down here. Let's do that. So that was pretty quiet. It was great for me. I enjoyed listening. I enjoyed being part of it. I hope people who listen enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed being in it. But I'm going to have a former player or two of mine come on so you guys can grill them. And,
I'm going to let Pop take the lead on that.
Embarrass me. And
it's going to be a roast. It's going to be a roast.
It's anticipated to be. There's a couple more Division I coaches, couple professional players. So we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
It's our off season.
There's no off season for this.
We're going to fill it up.
If anything, this is our busy time because now you have all these D1 figures who are available.
Access to people that we can talk to. So
right, exactly.
I'm looking forward to it. A lot of guys who don't agree with, who I don't necessarily agree with everything they're doing, but they're great basketball coaches just the same. And it's cool to hear other points of view. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's not a coincidence that the guys who have been running something similar or what we run have won.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence, especially today. So.
And we got the perspective tonight of someone who jumped up a level, and hopefully in future episodes, maybe we could get a reversal where we talk to a former D1 coach that went to the D3 level afterwards. I think that would be very unique too. That'd be cool. Yeah, there are plenty of examples there too. Plenty. So So that does it for episode 12 of the Harold Katz podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Special thanks to Coach Davenport for taking time out of his busy schedule to shoot the breeze with Coach. Everyone have a great rest of your night. Don't forget to count the Omer, and we'll be back, God willing, next week for episode 13 of the Harold Katz podcast. Coach, you want to plug in the guest, or we'll wait for as we get closer?
I'm going to plug it in if we're going to kick him for the Rangers game. So
so a TBD.
Well, we might have to. I'll let me talk to him.
He might also be a Ranger fan. He's from that area.
He is. When was their first game?
When was their first game? It was last night. Yeah.
Who won, by the way?
5-1 Rangers.
Okay, the Rangers won. So I know that guest, besides working that night, he wanted to get home for that game.
Right.
So we couldn't get him last night. So we're going to get him next week.
It'll remain a mystery until we get closer to showtime.
Yeah, we'll put that out, and then just follow us and subscribe. And were you supposed to plug your Yeshiva League Pass here?
Yeshiva League Pass, Yeshiva League Pass, Yeshiva League Pass. That's how you end the show.
That's it.
Good night, guys. Take care.
Good night, guys.